Erik Neander joining us right now. Erik, we appreciate the time. Great to have you. And you tell us how impressive the arms look right now in camp. Love the hat too, by the way.
Function over aesthetics here. I got
what
a
do
big
you mean?
head. Or
First
both.
of all, no
Or
quarter
both.
zip, no quarter zip hoodie and floppy hat with the old school Rays logo on top. I mean, we talked about Dana Brown styling. He might be taking it for the old Florida vibe. He's got it right now.
This is my salesman. There we go.
Looking for a job. Always looking for a job, especially close to home.
How's the staff, though, Erik?
Before we got to that?
Yeah. Well, before we got to the awesome bucket hat, which I'm sure you can get online somewhere, how is the staff looking? Because, we asked Cash about this as well. I mean, guys that, had some longer term injuries, and it seems like everything's coming together where, are you going to potentially have a 6-man rotation if everyone's good to go for the season?
Yeah, we're so far so good. And we've had some staffs in camp. We can go back to 23 that we were really excited about. We never saw the 5 take one turn together. So we're being cautious here. Love our numbers. Love what we've seen out of McClanahan yesterday. Rasmussen going back to the rotation. Like Zach Littell's like the forgotten man in this, who's the strike thrower, has proven to be a really good starter himself the last year and a half. Just a really good group, and we'll give it time. I don't think we're going to go 6-man. I think just with Cashy going through it with Kyle Snyder, I think just going 7-man pen with the way we got to manage Mac, Rass in the early going, probably not where we go, but we're a few weeks away from good health to having to make all those determinations.
What about offense?
Okay. Yeah.
What about offensively?
Yeah.
Because there are names: Yandy, Brandon Lau, obviously Junior Caminero.
Sure.
There's names, but then you see like me and some other of the young guys that are starting to look like they're coming in. How do you score runs?
We
asked Cash. We asked Cash.
What did he say? Yeah. No, look, last year, I think the last 2 years we've seen a couple things. 23, we saw, I think, what could happen if a group clicks and everybody starts feeling it together. And as that snowball builds, you're up at 800 runs, and a lot went our way in 23. Last year, we lived, I think, the other extreme of it. I think realistically, our expectations are that probably our pitching staff is going to be what drives the competitiveness of this group. Our starters, our bullpen. The position player side, we felt like our path to getting better offensively was the Junior Caminero, Jonathan Aranda down the stretch, Curtis Mead, who this camp looks the way, that's coming together for him, right? A few years younger player. I think he's in a really good spot. We're counting on some of those guys taking a step forward. Yandy, Diaz returning, Brandon Lau, what they provide and have for some time. And then free agency, Danny Jansen, Ha-Seong Kim. Last year, our offensive premium defensive positions was pretty well underwater, and we thought our best path to improving this club was likely going to be the ascension of some young guys on the corners of the field, and then up the middle, if we could, bring in a little more offense without losing our kind of defensive identity, that'd be the way to go. And I think Jansen behind the plate, he's been great in the early going. He's healthy. That should give us a lift. Ha-Seong Kim, once he's healthy, should give us a little bit more up the middle. Johnny DeLuca in center field. We're believers in Johnny and just the athlete continuing to get better and his mental makeup.
Got to work on his signature, though.
Hey, well.
Have you seen his signature?
No.
I pulled one of his cards. It's just a J. I was like,
that's it. That's him. So, if we can get a little bit stronger up the middle and not be juggernauts, but just have, more competitive at bats up the middle without giving back defense, those guys in the corners taking a step forward, I think we're going to be in a place that will be competitive, and we'll see where it goes. Josh Lowe being healthy again has been huge too.
Talk a little bit about, I know you're talking about players here. Let's shift gears to the new ballpark. We've had a couple conversations about that already, but I'm intrigued to hear what you think about it, the new amenities they have over there as well, and what are you hearing from the players' point of view? And there's a lot of obstacles, weather, where everybody's going to stay. So talk a little bit about, the whole organization going there, and, the stadium, fell apart, as we know.
Yeah. And unfortunate, and you keep it in perspective. The 2 storms, that's a lot for this area to go through. Our players have been wonderful, absolutely wonderful, understanding, supportive this offseason. They were patient as we were trying to figure out what we were going to do, how we were going to go about this season. Thankfully, the Yankees, House Steinbrenner, they were great to give us an early okay to get in there to start planning about it. look, it's a chance to play baseball. You keep it in perspective. It's a really nice facility. I don't know if you guys have been up there yet and been into that. Yeah, see, it's not a bad place. If there are rain delays, there are worse places to spend them than that clubhouse, as it is. So we just got to make the most of it. It is what it is. We have expectations for the competitiveness of this group that are high. Want to get back to where we were the 5 years prior to last year, and don't want this facility to be a reason we can't get there. And I think this group, the guys we brought in, the guys we have, they recognize that. Just trying to galvanize this group around our circumstances. And so far in camp, the energy's been great, the work's been great, and haven't heard a single complaint. Now, you guys are talking to players, maybe
no, they haven't complained at all.
But they've been
actually excited.
They're wonderful. Everything's been good, and the players returning last year was a disappointment in many respects. And I think to get out there, like I said, it doesn't really matter where we're going to play. We just got to go play. And as long as we have a chance to compete, we'll be okay. And it's so far so good.
When is Kim back? Do we have a timetable on him?
Working through it, going through the shoulder progression now. Hitting's, as you'd expect with the throwing shoulder, much further along than the throwing. A chance to see him sometime in May, but really it's a day-by-day progression on the throwing, and want to take care of him, want to do it right. It's a 2-year deal. He has the opt-in, opt-out decision after this year. We're going to make sure we take care of him and do it right. But the hope is sometime, middle of May, somewhere in there, give or take. It really depends on, the shortstop part of it's obviously going to take longer. Maybe he can fit in through the progression, not playing short, helping out at second elsewhere sooner, but somewhere in that mid-May, maybe it leaks into June as we go, but he's doing well so far and should be a big lift for us.
Speaking of shoulders, Junior Caminero, he had one of the most epic home runs that we have ever seen. Were you worried that he was going to hurt his shoulder when he bat flipped the bat to the moon? I mean, that was have you ever seen a crazier? I mean, he high-fived the concession stand workers. He stopped and made barbecue at second base, and then he touched on play.
When he hit it, I watched the clip no less than 5 times trying to figure out where the ball landed, and I kept playing it back from the time the ball hit and came down back to the pitch. That over and over. And I realized the clip was like 2 minutes long. And then I watched the rest of it.
And then you watched the home run trot.
Yeah, 1 minute and 6 seconds, the bat lands, at 2 minutes and 18 seconds, he's crossing home plate. It was something. But I Junior, it was important for us to get him up last year to make sure, and not just for a little bit, but have enough time to take feedback into the offseason about what the big leagues are about. He's 21. He has all the expectations in the world on him. He has them on himself. He believes in himself, but you got to live it, right? You need real feedback, I think, to make this offseason purposeful. And he got that last year. He went into this offseason where a lot of it was about establishing work ethic, establishing routines, not just for 2025, but if you want to play in the big leagues for 10, 15 years, taking care of yourself and putting the work in, it's now, right? And it's building those habits. He did a great job of that. Albert Pujols puts a little pressure on you to play winter ball. It's hard to say no to that. Great mentor that Albert was to him. For him to get that positive feedback to the work he put in just that winter was probably the best thing that could have happened for him. From building those relationships with Albert, having that moment to see the work he put in pay off that quickly. We've seen in camp, there's a lot of days where he's the first one here. He's getting in the weight room early, doing all the things that when you have someone that talented, you want to see that work ethic behind the scenes match. We've seen that maturity, and you want to temper expectations for him, but he's a good one at the same time. And we're going to
had him on right after his home run. He wanted to know why you guys wouldn't let him play in the Caribbean World Series. He's like, I could have done it again.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. Hopefully he's got a few more in him.
Okay, for sure, especially in Tampa.
There you go. Exactly.
For the Rays.
Exactly.
Yandy Diaz, who's kind of become a leader of your team, had some interesting comments not long ago. Any thoughts on what he said? Because a lot of guys come and go through the Rays organization. You guys do a great job developing guys. You're in the situation you're in as the Rays. Yeah. Any thoughts on what he said? I mean, from a player side, it's nice to hear players say this. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm sure from a president of baseball ops, you're like, oh man, I wish.
You know what? I don't know. If anyone wants to say anything about anybody, I'm kind of. It's up to you. You take what comes with it, and whatever that might be, that's fine. I think Yandy, we've seen unbelievable growth in Yandy from the time we acquired him at 19 to where he is now. Just the trust, the relationship with the organization, with his teammates, his openness. I can't even begin to put myself in Yandy's shoes at his life experiences to that point. And, he's as beloved of a teammate as we have here. And each passing year, there's more trust, there's more comfort, there's more relationship. And look, to us, publicly, ideally, most of the time things are private, but in this case, whatever. I think we want to know what our players are thinking. This is about players, first and foremost. It's, appreciate you having me on. I assume that the viewership will go down for a little bit and then back up when you get players back. But it's just, look, it's about players. It's trying to put them in the best environment to be happy. Our circumstances here, you're around each other every day. The relationships, the camaraderie is something that's really important. I think, we didn't have the year we wanted to last year. And as you know, when that happens, there's less that people are happy about, but we're okay, but just trying to continue to build that environment.
Is that the Rays way, though?
What's that?
What you said about we want people to be themselves, say what they want, but then you have to deal with the consequences, right? So you can go out and play, and I played against the Rays when Madden was there, and even before that, and there was always a little bit of chirpiness from the Rays. They were, we're the underdog, we can't win. And you guys went out and won. So is that the Rays way? We had Kevin Cash in here, and Kevin Cash is a great communicator. He lets people be. Every player Cash was like, Cash lets us be ourselves. People come over here from different organizations. I thrive because I'm myself. Is that kind of the Rays thing is, hey, go be yourself, but listen, there's consequences when you make mistakes, but go do yourself and figure this out as yourself.
Without question, and Cashy is as good as it gets to navigate that. You give people, look, with us, our teams are often younger, less experienced, or the players, if they're a little deep in their career, they're coming off of an injury, they're coming off being overlooked somewhere else, right? And I think for us to pair with that, you're trying to create an environment where so much of this is confidence, right? It's trying to help them either, if you're young and you haven't done it yet, believe you belong, and you can compete here and excel here. And if you're a player that's been, chewed up and spit out somewhere else, that, hey, no, I can do this again, right? And you find the confidence. So much is confidence, right? You have to have the confidence you can go out and compete, and everybody has different levels of that inside of them. But I think Cash is as good as I see it of just making sure if you're going out there and we think you're part of our group. One, we've been fortunate to win a lot of games for a long time, going back to 2008, third most wins in baseball in the regular season. So that's there, that's there, right? And then with that, it's like, all right, well, if they won that many games and I'm here, they must see something to me. And it's just working to make sure you find any way you can to bring that out of them. But at the same time, there's got to be standards and you got to go about your work a certain way within that. But there is a lot of freedom, and you just try to get guys comfortable with one another. And as long as they take care of one another, be a good teammate, we can go from there.
Okay, Erik, I want to ask you about this because, we haven't had you on to ask this question. We get it all the time, and I'm sure you've been asked it a million times. But for our crowd, because we also have a lot of either, players that played in college or pros but didn't make it and didn't make a full career out of it. They want to know how to get involved in a front office. You went from intern all the way to your role, obviously, now for a long time. How do you do it? What's the advice? Because it's easier for you to tell the story than for Chris Young, Craig Breslow, etc. They played in the big leagues. You did not. What do you got?
They played, and if I'm not mistaken, Princeton and Yale is academically, the perception is superior to we'll call it a Virginia Tech, perhaps. But look, I don't know. I got into this. I grew up. I loved the game. I got hurt. I couldn't play any longer. It probably wouldn't have gone past college one way or the other. So in a way, it probably helped me out. I really wanted to coach, and that didn't open the college level. And then started to learn more about the pro side. And really for me, it was, I loved the game. As I learned more about the major league side, front office, that line of work and what was behind it, the subject matter and kind of the intellectual stimulation got me excited about the possibility of it. And then I chased it, and I was in my early 20s. I didn't have anything on my resume that stood out. I just knocked on enough doors, and after a few failed attempts, the Rays finally brought me in. And Andrew Friedman, I think 5 months after I was on the job at an intern, he talked to me, and thankfully a few months after that, he hired me. But really, I love the game. I didn't get too caught up in how other people went about it. I just wanted to have the opportunity to make a career out of something I was really passionate about, and then worked as hard as I could to make it possible and do anything and everything with the Rays that, I how can I make someone else's job easier? How can I make someone else's life easier? A player, a staff member, whatever it would be. And I think really to this day, I try to do it with that same attitude. The best advice I got, you better love the game. And it's not about a job, not about a title. You do it because you love it. It's not about the hours or the money. And, some of us are lucky enough where it turns into more than that. But, I don't know. You got to be yourself. I did it my own way, and I couldn't beat Breslow. He's way smarter than I am. Chris Young, and more accomplished as a player, more accomplished academically. I had to be okay with a science and nutrition food. I can't even remember my degree at Virginia Tech without playing experience past high school, and figure out how to show people I could make their lives easier. And thankfully, I've had one organization that's seen that, and I suppose I've fooled the right people ever since.
Interesting. Very, very nice. Well said. Now, my last question is this. It's kind of different too as well. I'm curious. You see a big name like Shohei Ohtani or Juan Soto out on the free agent market. Now, you're a president. You're in talks with some people. You're trying to make your team as best as possible. What are the talks? Are you guys are you always in on every single player? I know the answer you might get, well, we're looking for a particular player, but even at that point with a player of that stature, don't you, and I don't want to speak for you, but don't you have to try and put your best foot forward to get a guy like that?
Yeah, it's a great, you kind of handicap where you have a chance for overlap, right? Danny Jansen, Ha-Seong Kim were too early in the offseason. We thought, all right, these are two that if things break a certain way, if we show them some love and appreciation and we keep knocking on the door, maybe we can line up. But to your point, if it's the free agents, the trades, whatever it may be, I think the way we operate, you gotta try, right? Like it's not. I don't know. I think anytime we're transacting, anytime we're bringing in players, you have to. To know what match makes the most sense. To me, you've got to know the player universe, like in and inside and out, right? You got to know players top to bottom. You got to know how they line up. And before, this particular deal makes sense, you got to know that there's 15 over here that don't. And a lot of our work, 95% of the effort we put into pursuits largely never becomes public because it doesn't line up. But that's how you figure out what lines up best. So, to your point, there's probably a few that are enough out of reach that you want to work smarter, a little bit,
but now I don't know this, but Freeman and Judge were two names you guys were, rumored to be in on.
Look, without getting at any particular player, you have to try, right? And if you think there's even a 1% chance of something happening, to me, it's my job description. It's our duty to explore it, right? And not assume anything is a no, because all it takes is one yes somewhere amongst 1,000 no's, and that's how we got to do our job, right? And if our payroll, the disparities, the revenues, all that stuff, like you can't raise the white flag too early on virtually anything, and that's how we do it. And you can't be lazy about it. You just got to keep going and going and going, and over time, good things happen. So that's our approach, and I don't mind being told no 1,000 times. We can eventually get a yes in there at some point, and we'll keep going.
All right, before we let you go, last one here. All your guys left.
Yeah.
Bendix, Friedman. I mean, everyone wants to do it.
Yeah.
How Tampa does it. Every team is like, we want to do it how Tampa. So are you going to be a Ray for life?
I'm trying. I've been here a long time. 2007, they've been good to me. I talked about it earlier. To me, I love the game. It's never about money.
Aren't you a little bit jealous though? To know what like Andrew Friedman has, because he's unlimited payroll. You just think if you had an unlimited payroll in Tampa, and you're like, oh, we want we want Teoscar, Shohei,
right.
Oh, Freddie, Mookie. Oh, that's not enough. We'll go get Sasaki just for fun.
Yeah. It's a different world. I remind him of how much he's changed. But the way I see it, like I said, like love the game. Couldn't be more grateful for the way I've been treated here. I couldn't be more grateful for the autonomy we have to go out there and run this thing the way that we think we need to run it to have a chance to compete and succeed. And sometimes you get a little weird to do that, but somehow, some way, you got to take some shots to figure out how to gain ground. The Kevin Cash, his year was 11, I think. He's been on this, like, couldn't have a better partner from a manager standpoint. Like, the most important thing is I believe we can win here, right? Like, and there is a stubborn belief. The payroll, talked about it. Like, yeah, it is what it is, and they got us in the World Series in 20, but believe we can win here. And that as long as that stubborn belief is there, then yeah, what might not be there in terms of the payroll and some of the revenues and how that stuff goes, that is what it is. But I think there's a lot of other strengths to work in here, and a lot of it's the people, right? And I'm talking about people that have come and gone from this organization. If I walked out this door and disappeared from this organization, they'd still be good because there's so many great people that are here, and it's a blast to work with them. And look, I don't know, not all wins are created equal in a sense, right? Like,
listen, there's a little bit of you that calls Freeman and is like, listen, I made it to the World Series with this payroll, and you were there with that payroll, and we almost had you.
Like I said, he's changed. He's a very good friend of mine. But it's winning here and finding a way. And we've won a lot of regular season games. I get it. We got to figure out a way to win that last game. And as long as that belief's here that we can do that, and the talent we have, the talent underneath, both now and later, feel very good about our chances to continue to be competitive. I'd love nothing more than, this is my family's home, is our community now. I would love nothing more than to find a way to win that last game here. And, each win, the amount you told you can't win here, you can't do it, or it's over, or this or that, each win along the way, you'd ever take them for granted. They're probably a little bit more satisfying. Andrew, he's expected to win 100 every year now, and he's raised the bar, and good for him. He's unbelievable at what he does, but winning it here, would mean more than winning it anywhere else, because the people I work for, people I work with, and just a stubborn desire to try to see that through as long as we can.
Erik, this was awesome. Thank you for the insight, and obviously just for fans to be able to hear someone like you. I mean, you guys do it right there, just talking like a person. That's what people want to hear, especially on a show like this. So thanks for joining us. And again, compliments on the bucket hat. People are going to check it out. It's going to get some attention now.
If you got a size 8, this is the way to go. Yeah.